Hi, welcome to Mill Savvy Tutorials. I'm Luke, and today I wanted to do a video on pocketing and to walk step by step through the pocketing cycles and try and talk about the benefits of all the options that you have and go through it in detail and explain all the options and what they mean. There's a lot of people they find it hard to understand what, for instance, with your compensation, at control, where away, where closer, and automatic and stuff like that. So I've done this part, don't get me wrong, it's nothing special. I'm not going to win any modelling design awards here, am I? So, but I've done this like this to try and sort of use a couple of different pocket features, and I'm going to do it in sort of one take. It's typical of me really. So you can see, like, I'll make mistakes along the way, and then I'll see them in my sim, and I'll rectify them as I go. So I just wanted to quickly talk. I've just quickly done this. I was playing around before I started the video because you get so used to programming a certain way, you honestly do forget about the features that you just don't use. But there is reasons and situations where you might want to use them for different companies. If you move company, there's people program different ways, and it's good to know how you do it basically. So if I just click onto this pocket cycle that I've done here, I'll start from the beginning so you can see what I've done. So I've got these lines. I've extracted these and put them onto my plane. Right, to do that, go down here, extract an edge, grab that, look, it selects the whole pocket, and then what I'll do is I'll select it, click F3 there, and then I would project it onto my plane. So that button there is located down here, project entities. I'd right click that to put that up there because I use it a lot. I'd click it, and then I would project that onto my plane by clicking OK. You work with all your lines from your plane basically, it just makes it easier. I'm not going to do that obviously because I've already got one, so in this I'll just delete it. But you've projected it onto your plane. Once you do that, high speed pocket, you grab your pocket, left click, right click to go into your tooling and cutting options. Pick a tool that you're happy with doing it. For instance, these are 8mm corner rads, so I'll use this 10mm tool. It's got enough flute to do that pocket because it's 20mm deep from that face down. It's actually 27.5mm deep from the datum face down. So I can finish past that in one sweep, which is obviously going to be preferable. You don't want this, if you can avoid the step down line, then it's always going to be what you should choose. So I'll go through my settings here. Tool number, speeds, coolant on. That's number 1 on your settings. G54 speed, more feed rates and stuff like this. Increase that there, 2000. Even though it says plunge, and we all know what plunge does, your tool's just going to plunge straight down into material. You'll see later on I'll change my settings, so I don't plunge cut, I like heli ramp or ramp cut. You can choose whatever you want to do. But so here is just all the information that it pulls out of my tool library, and that's all going to be set for me. I'll just literally grab a tool that I've got built up in my library. And then, so to explain all of this in detail, so your 20 and your 2 directly relates to your post, and I'll show you where them features are. So if I just go into my NC post, and I go to posting format, and then I go to start and finish format, tool format, you'll see here I have, no, it's not on there. Is it rapid line format? Yeah, look. So yeah, that first that one when I had Z20 is this here, right? So it's Z and it populates by that number. I've put 20, so it'll be Z20. So what your program will show is your start and finish format, obviously top and bottom of your program, and then you've got your tool format, which is your tool line. So you've got all your sort of like your rapid, your absolute movement, what datum you're using is what that means. These are all explained down here. Your X and your Y, they're self-explanatory. Your G43 is what refers to your H code, so your height of your tool. Obviously spindle speed, clockwise motion, MO3, and then coolant, that's my line that I just showed you, the MO8, which is number 1 on yours as standard, and next tool is TN. GO4 and P2 is something I've typed in, that's obviously to dwell for 2 seconds to allow the coolant to come on. You might want to change, if you're using some old machines, some of them take like 4 or 5 seconds, a bit of a pain, but you can alter that, as you like, basically. So let's go jump back into this and carry on explaining. Now we know what everything on this page does and where that information comes from, and also here. So that's your Z20 I was talking about, then your Z2. Now your plunge clearance isn't interested in what's going on up here. Your plunge clearance directly relates to the material Z top, right? So for instance, I'm only interested in this face here. I know I've machined these first. Obviously that wouldn't be the way this gets, manufactured. You'd face this, you'd rough that step down, this one I'm referring here, so you leave these islands. You finish that face probably, come in with the end mill and do these pockets, yeah? So let's just, entertain it. Let's just imagine I've done that. And now the only thing I care about is the distance from this plane down to this plane, which is 20 mil from there to there, 27.5 mil from this island all the way down there. So going back to what I was just saying, your plunge clearance comes from this. So it will do exactly the same as what this does, but from wherever you say it's safe to do so. So material Z top is this face here at 7.5. My tool will start at 5.5, Z minus 5.5, and then it will heli mill, plunge, or ramp down from there. So admittedly I'm going to do 2 mil of fresh air, and then it will start cutting material. If you're really trying to dial in that cycle time, then have minimal clearances. So it's first, the way that program's going to come out, it's going to go Z20, it's going to go Z2, coolant's going to come on, it's going to dwell, then it's going to feed down to that, I believe. It might rapid down to that actually. Then it will feed from this number, from that number down basically. But I think that will be a rapid movement. I'll show you in the post. But I don't claim to. I don't study this. I know what it does, but I ain't I'm probably not the best in the world at this, that's for sure. But so then carrying on, my final Z, obviously this will be Z27.5. I'm going to rough it and then use this one here to finish it. So that's why it said 27.3. And you can set that to 27.5 and then use the features available to you, which I'll just quickly flick through and I'll come back. I'm not skipping ahead. Leave on bottom. You could turn that on. Yeah, and it would leave it on bottom and then it would take it off when you do your finishing pass basically. But I personally don't like to do that, and I'll explain why as we flick through the slides. So going back to where it was, moving on to the next page. So you've got 5 different options here. So high speed close and open and traditional is what you'll find you're going to use. I've never really found the benefits of using center optimized closed or high speed zigzag. Personally, if I was going to do these two, I'd probably just use traditional or high speed closed. There's not a massive difference. I know some people are probably screaming at me now going, yeah, there is, this one's loads better. I've not seen the difference in it. Obviously we can see what sort of toolpath you're going to get, but I'll be honest, that's going to be faster than that. And your center optimization closed, I mean, you may as well just use this. It's hardly any different. It's just, it's, so I'm going to talk about these 3 because I've never really clicked on these. The only time I've used these is when I was doing I was finishing a pocket which was it's not deep, it's about 2 mil deep, and it was a big pocket but it was on a thin plate, and I was getting like a step over line with the 8 mm I was using, and I flicked through these just in desperation really, just to see what sort of looked better. But so we'll talk about traditional in this pocket. I mean, I change what one I use depending on what material I'm cutting. So I'm going to use a lot of these on stainlesses because I want to go full depth and use that flute, and I want to use that radial step over. Obviously it's great for tool life, it's great for getting the swarf, chip evacuation and stuff like that, and it is time efficient. But a lot of the time your traditional style step over is going to be way faster, and if you're doing it on like aluminiums and stuff like where your tool life, I'll be honest, with modern day carbide tooling and coatings that they supply now, traditional cutting is just fast. But then if you're if you're doing a pocket that's super deep, then you're probably going to find this would be better. If you're doing 50-60 mil deep with a tool that's got the flute to do it, like chip breakers and stuff like that, and you're doing 3 mil step overs at crazy speeds and feeds, that will be faster than traditional. Because you're not going to traditional cut at 60 mil deep, you'll snap your tool. So there is fors and against for all of them, and you just need to know the best to get the best cycle time, best tool life, etc., etc. So flicking on to the next slide, this is where you could pick your plunge ramp, ramp helix, ramp zigzag, ramp on toolpath, and pre-drill basically. I've not used this, to be fair, your pre-drill. I'm guessing that end mill will peck down. It's a guess, so don't quote me for it, but I've always used these. So your ramp on toolpath is super handy if you're doing stuff like this, because there's no easy way to get a tool in there. So sometimes what you do is you'd like pick this edge here and you just say ramp on toolpath, and it'll just ramp down and cut it all out nice. It's kind of how you would program it at the machine with like a G03 and a G91, and you ramp down. So that kind of does that there. That's real hand. I use that quite a lot. Now I've got a bit of a bit of confidence with it, and obviously you know what plunge does. That's just going to plunge straight down to whatever depth you set it to. But most of the time you'll find you'll use ramp and ramp helix and ramp zigzag. Right, you can see what they do. Sort of corkscrews in, and then you zigzag. It's going to zigzag side to side and go down to depth. So, and you can set this ramp angle, and this will be in your cutting, your end mill cutting data page, supplied by the company you're buying your tools from. You can see what its optimal ramp angle is and your speeds and feeds. Remember, your ramp angle feed rate will be this one, right? So if you click on that, it's going to ramp down at 2000, and then once it's ramped down, it's going to traditional cut, or whatever you've selected. It's going to be cutting the rest of it out at, I think I had it, 3.5, yeah. So that's what they do. Step over, self-explanatory. I've got it at 2 mil. Obviously when I'm finishing it, I'm going to have that much bigger. You could do this if you want, because a lot of the time you just do 10% of the tool. But a lot of end mills just 10%, 16, 1.6. It's quite simple. But this tool, for instance, it'd easy do, if this was aluminium, it'd easy do a 2 mil step over. No questions asked. But and especially if the milling I'm doing, this traditional style milling at 10 mil deep, as long as I've got a good grip on this part, you could really increase this. You could bang that right up. Tools are so good nowadays, you can really push them quite hard. But your tools, I don't know what you're using, so let's carry on here. So you got your rough depths, pockets 20 mil. If I'm traditional style, I'd do it in 2 hits. So rough depth 10 mil. So it's going to go, I know from your datum, it'd be 17.5, then 27.5. So that's all that will do, because that rough depth starts from wherever your material Z top is, from here. It's not interested in where that is. It will come from there. Obviously allowing for that. So admittedly it'd be minus 7 mil. And it will start from there. So you'd have to think about that. And for instance, because I've got that extra half mil, if I wanted to be in 2 step downs, I'm going to want to do that. Because if I leave it at 10, it's going to do a 3rd step down, and that's going to waste a load of time. So finish leave on sides, 0.2. That's obviously going to leave 0.2 all the way around this wall. I could leave on bottom, but I prefer not to use that option, because I find that I'm trying to think what it does. It's something to do with, I think, when you're moving side to side in here and you leave a material on here, you'll find, because all the dwell lines you'll get from your step overs doesn't matter, because they're going to come in a compound and go around. When you leave this, I've got a feeling it's not very time efficient. I think it does the same thing twice. It will do it and make it look good, but I personally don't use it. I mean, find out for yourself, but I can't, because I don't use it, I haven't used this for a long time, I prefer not to use it. I like to duplicate it and then edit my settings. I find it's better that way, I get better finishes. I think I've got more control. Obviously wallpaper, I've never really found a good reason to use this, because if I'm doing tapered walls, then I'm not going to be using this option. I'd probably use more of my Z level rough options and stuff like that. So see, that would just, if you was telling us to add a 10 degree taper from where you selected your line from, it worked out for you, and it would know to allow to come off or whatever. So this is something that I struggle to find information about, all these options here. So I will talk to you about them, because I've now worked out what they all do. So you can set your depth, your finishing depth, but most of the time your data is going to be in there, so you don't need to set it. You've already set it by going on that first page and saying 27.3 or whatever. So on this toolpath, I don't want to finish anything because my next one's going to finish them. So on the next one, I'll go through it. So just click finish, generates a toolpath. Go into my next one, click edit. And you'll see I've changed a few things like my speeds and feeds. Well, my feeds have changed. And now look, my Z level top is now 27.3 and my plunge is 1 mil. So I'm literally going to feed right. And why is that? That's what that should be. Click next. And I want to. This will always give you a good surface finish on your pockets. Traditional. I always finish with traditional. Don't get me wrong. If you want it to, radial step over like this style, use it. But I like that. That's why I use that. Now I'll just helix ramp this. You can even select your entry. So I could probably select the center point of that rad there. But normally I draw a circle within this box and I'd grab that circle. So I'll leave it automatic. So I've got now step over is at 8. And now look, this is the bit where you might think, oh, he's left 0.2 on there. No, I'm doing that for a reason, because it will finish the bottom first, then the side walls. So if I go setting that to 0, that step over, when it's finishing the bottom wall, it will go bang, bang into these side walls here and leave that dwell mark. So when I comp on and go round, because there was no finish allowance, it might not clean up them lines. So you always want to leave a finish allowance on there, because when you now select the next window, which is this one, finish settings, and you say bottom only, because you can set same as rough depth. So for instance 10.25, it could comp on and finish it for me at 10.25 if I set it to that. So I'll click hit bottom only. Now this is the bit I was on about a minute ago about trying to find out what they all do. So automatic, basically, to put everything in a nutshell, automatic will not use comp. It will just program the tool to go to its finish position, basically. So this wall here, for instance, is 5 mil back from my datum. The tool's 10 mil. So when it comes onto this wall here, it's going to have a number of -10. It will arc on to Y -10, feed round, and say this was 80, it'd be 85 on your code. So it is sort of roughing it and then finishing it, but it's not using comp. It's just offsetting the tool. So that's what automatic does. At control is where, for instance, you set your offset in your offset page on like a Hass machine, for instance. You've got your height, then you've got your height wear, and then you've got your radial offset, and then you've got your radial wear. Or if you've got it set to diameter and diameter wear. So at control, it will program to that line and hope that you've put, for instance, this 10 mil as a 5 mil offset if you're using radius, and it will program that as Y -5 on a G41 line. So when it's feeding this way, it will step your tool over depending on the offset of your tool. So some people don't use the offset page in terms of their radial or diameter. So in that sense, if you're cutting everything with a 0 in your offset page, and there is some benefits to doing this, then you're going to want wear away, because then what that does is it will comp on still, but it will automatically offset your tool by its radius. So if you're comping on with a 0 in your offset page, it's not going to go center line of the tool and destroy this wall. It will still comp on, but allow for that 5 mil, half of your diameter, to offset that tool to keep it within them lines. So there's companies that use this, and there's companies that use this. Your wear closer is a G42 line. So if I was to use that in this situation, I would scrap this part, because your high-speed pocket will actually, let's just put it back to control. If I went back to here and I said conventional mill, right, which, to be honest, if you're on a CNC you don't tend to do it, and then clicked wear closer, that would be fine, because that would do the same thing. It would do what wear away does, but it would use a G42 and go that way around the pocket, which you're probably not going to, but that's what it does. So I put that back to climb, and I'll leave it at control, because that's how I tend to program with the offset, the radius set in the offset page. And then you've got some options here to come on and come off. So leave that at night, that's fine. And you'll see what that does look there. If I zoom in, you'll see that rads on, goes round, and then rads off. Sometimes you want a straight line with a slight angle on it. Do whatever you prefer. I'm not actually going to manufacture this, am I? So I'm not going to mess around with it too much. But that would be fine. That would be sufficient. That would look fine. The idea of this arc on and arc off is so you don't get that line coming up, up and down that pocket. Obviously, the best way to really blend a pocket in nicely is to come on right in this corner where it's starting to rad round, and then you'll get and then what you do is you rad off as you come out the corner. Very easy to program by hand like that on a HAS, but quite difficult to manipulate your CAD to do it. But you can do it with your profile tools. So sometimes you'll find that is your preferred way to finish the inside of your pockets. So if you want me to go into more depth on this, because the video is already 20 minutes long and I've done hardly anything here. But for instance, when I'm doing this pocket, I would draw a pocket out. Maybe I'll do it in another video. I'll keep this as pocket milling like stage 1 or something, and I'll do another video and explain how I do the rest of these or something, and this one. I don't know. Right, so let's post this out and have a look at the post so I can show you what it looks like. So yeah, let's post that out. So your 10mm tool is going to come in. It's going to find a place automatically. It did show that in your sort of predicted lines or whatever. I don't know what you want to call them. In your toolpath lines on the model. Don't know what I was doing over here with the mouse then, but brain was hurting. So yeah, you can see here. Look, feeds down 7.251. So it goes Z20, Z2, and then that's a feed line down to that depth, and then look, you can see it's zigzagging down all the way down until it gets to 10mm deep from that face. Right, then it's going to come in and hack that pocket out with a traditional style step over. Then it's going to zigzag down again to the depth that we told it to go. So it's got to hack that out. And then what it's going to do is it's going to come in. It should go down to 27.5 here. I remember that was a helix step down, and 8mm step overs is finishing the pocket bottom at 27.5, and then it lifts up, moves to where it wants to start comping on, and then look, feeds down G41. It's going to arc on, look, Y-5. So this is, remember, this option here is your at control with G41, and it will program it to the exact numbers on the model, and your offset page will offset the tool for you because you've told it to with a G41 and a D value. Some tools, some machine tools, they don't want a D value, like Matsuura's for instance. As long as you've got, they only care about your tool numbers a lot of the time. Everyone programs differently. There's probably people going, well, I use D values. You don't have to on a Matsuura. It's only interested in what tool you're using. And it can actually be quite dangerous to use D values, because on a Matsuura, for instance, you can put, say you had tool 405 in your tool library and you wanted to put it in pot 70. Well, tool 405 needs an offset at tool 405, so you can't have a D value of 405 because it doesn't exist in the actual tooling system on a Matsuura. It might only have 170 tools. So, well, depending on which one, you might have 400 tools, but for instance, pot 70, it would have the offset data for that tool will be in offset 70. So If you had a D value that said D400 and whatever, it is going to read, well, it'd probably alarm out if you didn't have that many offsets, but it won't like it. So for instance, but on this is a hash post and it does like D values. So it's going to comp on, go around that pocket, arc off. There it is there, look, G40 and your arcing off bit. Well, that's your arc off there, and then that's just comping off. And then you just got your lift, because it's the last thing I did. It's going to lift up and then finish my program there. I'll stop trying to click things. Right, anyway, so that's what that post does. Alright, cheers, thanks for watching.